back, boys and girls, to chapter 14 of I, Freddy. It happened when I had been at Mr. John's for exactly 2 weeks, and it all began with a thud. I was still asleep at noon when this sudden commotion woke me up and the whole burrow shook. I darted out into the open. Mr. John was right beside the bookshelves, and standing on the shelf next to my cage was the typewriter. Could he possibly have guessed that I wanted to learn to write? Had he devised some ingenious method of solving the problem? I rose on my hind legs and clung to the cage door. "Sorry I woke you, kid," he said, "but I had to get this old thing off my desk. I needed the space." Maybe I had been wrong about his intentions, but what did he need the space for? What did he have in mind? Mr. John left the room. He opened the front door, but didn't shut it. Then I heard him hurry down the stairs. After a while, he returned, but his footsteps were labored and he was breathing heavily. He reached the top of the stairs at last, kicked the door open, and came tottering in with an enormous cardboard box. Groaning under its weight, he put it down on the floor and disappeared again. Printed on the box were lots of words and symbols that meant nothing to me. What on earth did monitor signify? Mr. John came panting back up the stairs with a slightly less enormous cardboard box, which he deposited on the small table. Last of all, he fetched 3 cardboard boxes, one on top of the other, and put them on the desk. A medium-sized one, a flat one, and a small one. Then he sat down, drew a deep breath, and surveyed them all. I couldn't wait for him to unpack them. He began with the biggest box. Out came, first, a lot of packaging, and then a thing called a monitor, which resembled a television set. He heaved it onto the desk. From the slightly smaller package, he extracted a gray metal box, which he put under the table. Then he turned his attention to the 3 remaining cardboard boxes. Laying the small and medium-sized ones aside, he opened the flat one. This contained what looked like, yes, a typewriter. "Hello?" The telephone had rang. Mr. John held the new typewriter in his hand as he spoke, so I was able to get a good view of it. "Yes," he said. "I'm just unpacking it now." The new typewriter was gray instead of black, and very much flatter than the old one. I couldn't figure out where you rolled the paper in. "Of course, but you can come over anyway," he said. The new typewriter consisted mainly of keys, like the old one, but they were square instead of round, and you could read the letters on them more easily. "Oh, I see. But he settled in nicely here, I think. Another change of scene might be too stressful." Square keys or round, what difference did it make? Writing with a machine required more strength than I possessed. "Well, I can understand how Sophie feels. Of course, see you in a minute." He hung up. "Sophie? Was she going to pay me a visit?" Mr. John proceeded to mess around with various cables. It seemed he was connecting the typewriter and the monitor to the metal box and the metal box to an outlet. Then he sat down and started to read a book he'd also unpacked. After a while, he got up, opened the small cardboard box, and took out an object that looked like one of Sir William's paws, except that it was gray and bigger. He plugged this into the typewriter and put it down alongside it. Then he went on reading what seemed like for ages. He certainly knew how to keep a curious hamster on pins and needles. All at once he jumped up, hesitated for an instant, then reached for the typewriter and pressed the button. A gong sounded. There was a humming noise, and the monitor started to glow. Some mysterious symbols and pictures appeared on the screen. After a while, Mr. John reached for the thing that resembled Sir William's paw, and I heard it gave a faint click. The screen underwent another change, becoming as white as paper. Mr. John sat down in front of the new typewriter. He raised his hands and extended both fingers, but instead of punching the keyboard with them, he dropped his wrist and pressed the keys down quite gently. Black letters appeared on the right screen, as if they were being printed on a paper. Mr. John was using his new machine to write with. As I watched him typing at his desk and pressing the keys with very little effort, I realized that this was the machine for me. With this one, I could write. Not long afterward, I heard Sophie's footsteps on the stairs. Her visit didn't suit me at all, to be honest. I would much rather have continued to enjoy the sight of Mr. John typing so light-handedly. Besides, I had to figure out how to persuade Sir William that writing wasn't beneath a hamster's dignity, nor was using it to get in touch with Mr. John. Sophie didn't appear to be alone. Her footsteps were accompanied by other, heavier footsteps. There was a knock on the front door, and Mr. John went out. "Hi, kid," he said. Then, "Hello, Gregory." Gregory? Of course, he was due back from his concert tour yesterday. But what was he doing here? "Freddy!" Sophie came bursting into their study. "Just imagine, Freddy, you can come home." I'd have liked to say goodbye to Sir William, and also, but by some means or other, to Mr. John. Maybe even to Enrico and Caruso as well, but Gregory and Sophie were out of Mr. John's apartment with my cage before I could so much as squeak. Nothing in Sophie's bedroom had changed. The school books and pencils on her desk might never have been even moved. Gregory placed my cage on the shelf, exactly in the same old place. As for Sophie, she welcomed me back with 3 fat mealworms. She was the nicest girl in the world, but her room was the dullest place on earth. I had been whisked off into an intellectual void, wrested away from Mr. John's new typewriter. How I would cope with this disaster, I still didn't know. I hadn't managed to give it any thought, just gorged myself on the mealworms. But gorging instead of thinking wouldn't get me anything but a fat tummy. If I carried on that way, I would simply swell up and burst. I would have to adapt to the new situation as soon as possible. It could have been worse. The shelves in Mom's bedroom were filled with books from floor to ceiling. How to lay them down flat and open them, now that I was solely dependent on my own efforts, was something I would discover in due time. "Are you happy to be home, Freddy?" I sat up and begged, looking friendly. She didn't have a clue, the dear girl, but she meant well. "Sophie, come here a minute, would you?" "Yes, Mom." Sophie went out, leaving the door ajar. "What did we agree on this morning, Sophie, before I allowed you to bring your hamster home?" I couldn't wait to hear this. "I must never let Freddy out of his cage." "Forget it, Mom. You're up against the Houdini of the hamster world." "Correct. What else?" "The door to my bedroom must always be kept shut." "Exactly. So please remember that from now on." "Yes, Mom." Sophie came back into the room, closing the door behind her. The door was shut and would remain so. I would be a prisoner in Sophie's bedroom, all night and every night as well, and that meant... "Oh, one more thing, Sophie," Mom called. Sophie opened the door again. "Yes, Mom." "That cage, it smells. It needs a thorough spring cleaning. You'd better change all that bedding." Change the bedding? Then Sophie would find my pencil. Would she remember she'd given it to me as a present? Perhaps, but I couldn't count on that. If she took it away, I wouldn't just be imprisoned in her bedroom. I'd be shut up in my cage forever. "But Mom, you threw away the bag of litter." "Then your father will have to buy some more. In the meantime, ask John to let you have some. He's bound to have a supply of litter for those guinea pigs of his." "Yes, Mom. I'll go right away." "No, call him. He won't mind bringing some over." "But I'd rather go myself, can I?" Mom reluctantly agreed, so Sophie left the room with a cheerful, "See you later, Freddy." That was my chance. There was only one thing left to do: break out. I had to escape in double quick time before something else happened to prevent me. I hesitated even so. Sophie would be sad. Freddy, her beloved golden hamster, would be gone. From the looks of it, he would simply have deserted her. Why? Hadn't he been well off where he was? Hadn't she always looked after him conscientiously? Sophie would not only be sad, she would be miserable. What about me? I wouldn't be miserable to say goodbye to Sophie, but I would be miserable, thoroughly so, to be shut up in my cage forevermore. I got out, climbed down the curtain in less than a minute. I didn't bother to close the cage door behind me. The pencil lay exposed on top of my bedding. It had served its purpose. But where should I hide? Where would Sophie look for me? I thought it over. Then I turned around and made my way back up the curtain. Instead of stopping on a level with the shelf, I continued to climb until I reached the valance. It was wide enough to provide me with a safe perch. No one would be able to see me from below. As soon as I get a chance, I would sneak out of Sophie's room and into the rest of the apartment. My next requirement would be a hideaway, one with sufficient room for a larder, because, never knowing where my next meal would come from, I would have to hoard anything edible I came across. Foraging for food would take a lot of courage on my part. I would have to be constantly on my guard against discovery. I would have to roam all over the apartment too, so Mom would be bound to have another attack of her hamster hair allergy, and that, I knew full well, would result in a merciless hunt for me. I walked to the edge of the valance. My cage was down there. The door stood invitingly open, and inside was the comfortable burrow in which I could still, if I chose, laze away the rest of my life in a well-fed stupor. Life on the run would be hard, but I had no choice. Not under present circumstances. That's the end of chapter 14. See you next time for chapter 15. Bye for now.